It might be nice to put myself in the video. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good den morning. I'm Jackie Glass, Mama, Navy vet, certified doer, and the laced up legislator for the House of Delegates 93rd District. I am honored to serve, glad to be back at it. I'm on my final week of legislative session. And I'm really excited to sort of try, not to sort of try, but to at some point give you all um, uh, an update, an update on all the things that are happening. For those of you who have or new to this, I'm state representative in the Commonwealth of Virginia, and we are currently in legislative session. This is that time of year where we are doing the lawmaking process and trying to show up for folks in a way that matters most. Um, that matters most. So I have not been able to do the morning dew the way that I wanted to this whole time, but I am grateful to have the patience and the understanding of a community that I love so much that has given me the chance to do this work. What I do want to do today, there's a couple things that I kind of want to go through today that I think are super important as we sort of walk forward, because I need to make sure that you all are out there with the best and most um, accurate information regarding what's going on in the world today, in our world specifically. If you have any questions or comments, do not hesitate to put them in the chat. Remember that this is your time, but before I get into today's conversation, which is going to be about redistricting, some of y'all may have got something in the mail, particularly Black Virginians probably got something in the mail. But next Tuesday, March 17th, I'll be having a information session on water and power. This was something we were supposed to do last week, but our schedules kind of got wonked up. And then what's funny is like I was supposed to do it, and then 3 days later, I see the news stories on this exact same thing on water and power. I have received, since I've been in session, a tremendous amount of emails, calls about water bills and power bills. And so I decided, like, because I don't have all the answers, and just for you all to know, like, the water is locally controlled and managed. The power, that is where I, as a state representative, have some push and pull because we regulate the power company. So got a local representative from HRSD for us, and for those, it's Hampton Roads Sanitation District. For folks that don't know, that is down in the Hampton Roads area. And then someone from Dominion Energy will be on with us. All of it will be broadcast live the same way that we do this. So you'll be able to put your questions, your comments in the chat. My goal, number one, is to allow them to answer some questions, because I'm being asked, hey, why is my bill so high? Why is this happening? And some of the answers that we've gotten are, I'm like, yo, not good. And I don't want to, or some of them I'm like, well, I don't think people know this. So I want to give them the chance to answer to you all, and then be able to move forward. Because I feel like I'm in the same position in a lot of ways you are. Thank you. I love getting haircuts. Someone says nice buzz. Good, thank you. So we're going to walk through that. That is March 17th, 6 p.m., 6 to 7. So, there. And now let's talk about something that is quietly shaping our future. And maybe it's going to get a little bit louder, redistricting. So if you haven't heard the word redistricting, then it needs to be in your repertoire. And I want to take some time on this particular topic because there's been a lot of confusion. One moment. That's my alarm. There's been some confusion. Make sure I turn this off. There has been some confusion and misinformation, and quite frankly, political theater around what the referendum Virginians. So if you're in Virginia, I know everybody's not in Virginia, but there's been some confusion about what it actually does. So let me break down what redistricting is. Redistricting is a process of drawing boundaries for congressional districts. And you probably heard the word like gerrymandering a lot, because that's when people draw districts all crazy just to have what they want or the people that they want. That is a whole thing. That's a whole thing. And those boundaries determine like who I represent. They determine who Congress represent. Typically, we do redistricting every 10 years. Why is that? Because the census happens, right? And the census tells us that like population shift. So we are always trying to make sure that like, whereas for the past 10 years, my district that I represent, the 93rd, could have had there's 8.6 million people in Virginia, which means each delegate has, because we have 100 delegates, equal representation means we each have about somewhere between 84 and 86,000 people that we represent, right? When population shift, we have to redraw so that like if 10,000 people moved out of the district that I'm in, and then someone has 10,000 more, that we have to draw a line where you all get equal representation. Does that make sense? That does make sense. So that's what that is. I'm going to answer this question too, because I don't want to let it go too far. Person asked like, why you want to be in politics? I didn't want to be in politics. To be fair, this is the thing. I didn't do any political stuff. I just did community work, and it was a tough decision. I cried about it because I didn't want to do party stuff, but I ended up here because my community asked me to. I was a community advocate, just like trying to get stuff happening in the schools and trying to, work with the little citizens and the elders and stuff to get things happen. What I did realize is that my community saw something in me that I did not see in myself. My background is I'm a Navy veteran. I was a naval cryptologist for a little under 11 years, and love policy. I do. I really do. Don't always love politics, but I understand it's a nature of life. So I'm grateful to the people who told me, because I wouldn't be doing this if it hadn't kind of got pushed and kicked and shoved into the work. So that is why, and I want to do this because I also am working to be the representative that I want for myself. And I really enjoy that because it's hard, but it's fulfilling. And the biggest part of the work that we do is I've got principles: educate, advocate, celebrate, legislate. And what this morning do is that very thing. This is a place to educate. And so that's what I want to do: educate people so that they feel empowered. So it doesn't matter whether you're come here, from here, passing through here, that in the Commonwealth of Virginia, you feel safe, supported, and empowered to improve your quality of life. But we are in a big picture situation right now where what Virginia does has a lot of implications on what could happen with the rest of the country. This is real. So redistricting, guys, thank you for already voting. Yes, I appreciate you so much. For 235-110-10, like that's a part of it. So here's the education piece. Like I said, the census is about population shift. It's how we draw our boundaries just to make sure that there's equal representation. One representative should have 5,000 people, another shouldn't have 10,000 people. However, politicians, not all politicians, because I'll say that, like, you all get what I at least see at the state level is that there's this idea of what the average citizen thinks happens here, and then there's the reality of what's happening, right? Like I did a bill on a bill that talked a bit about how people are fined civilly for doing certain things. We agree on it. The idea, or not the idea, but the reality is here we vote on more things unanimously than we do that are not. So it's a lot of working together. It doesn't matter whether you're a D or R. Most of the things that we do here, we all agree on. However, we do have these big issues sometimes that we just don't we do have big issues like that you can count on two hands maybe that we just don't agree on. So to that point, Redistricting usually happens every 10 years when we do the census. So make sure you do your census because it decides your representation, it decides where your hospital goes, it decides your funding of where you live. All of that is really freaking important. Virginia has actually, in 2021, I believe, changed the system of redistricting to an independent commission rather than politicians drawing the maps themselves. So we did shift to an independent commission. That change was designed to reduce partisan manipulation. Several states across the country have actually are seeing something unusual, though, right? Because again, like I said, that change was meant to. But what has happened, if, for example, in North Carolina, new congressional maps shifted the expected balance of seats in favor of one party, right? And that was done because the commander in chief asked for it, right? Change the maps so that I can have certain seats because I want the legislature. What I think sometimes folks forget is that we are co-equal branches of government, right? Like I don't work for the governor doesn't work for me, and I don't work for the judges don't work for me. It really is a check and a balance. And that's the same thing at the federal level. Congress doesn't work for the president. The president doesn't work for Congress, and the Supreme Court doesn't work for the president, and also the Supreme Court doesn't work for for Congress, and Congress doesn't work for the Supreme. You get what I'm saying? There, that we learn these three branches of government. Most of us did or should have, and that is the nature of checks and balances. We are able to work with each other in a way that says we all have a say. So like just like the governor is not my boss, the president is not Congress's boss, right? So what happened was the president acted as a boss, right? Like as if the boss of the legislator, the executive branch behaved as if they were in charge of the legislative branch, which is not how the system was designed. It said, find me seats. And so in 2020, in the 2023 election, congressional maps in North Carolina changed the entirety of the delegation roughly to a significant advantage in that state for one party, which at that party was the Republican Party. Why does that matter? Because the majority of the U.S. House of Representatives is often decided by a handful of seats. That is the truth. It's often, which is there's another layer of thing about how many seats are competitive versus how many seats decide the balance of power in the legislative branch. And when states redraw maps strategically, that can change the balance of power in the entire nation. Whereas we're trying to allow communities, well, the objective previously was to allow communities to decide who their people were. Good morning. Good morning, Jalen. I appreciate that. So Virginia now had to decide whether or not we responded to what is now a national reality, right? Like we had to make that decision, right? What I'll say is I struggled initially with this, right? Like, man, do we really want to be in the business of changing things because of what's happening in other places? But I also am a believer, even despite it not being written for me in the Constitution, when I see that there has been an exercise of power. Remember, I'm just talking from the lens of an executive branch, a legislative branch, and a judicial branch. When one branch decides that they are the boss of the other branch, i.e., in this case, the executive branch decided they're the boss of the legislative branch and said, you will make sure that I retain power, the entire country has the deal with the consequences of that. Just like if that was happening in Virginia, all the residents, all the citizens, all Virginians would deal with that if the governor just decided, hey, if the governor told us, hey, I need y'all to make sure that when y'all draw the legislative seats, that I have a favorable legislative branch to me always, because we are the lawmakers. right? The governor cannot carry legislation. The governor has to find someone to carry legislation for, in this case, her priorities. That same thing applies for the president. The president can't bring legislation. The president has to find someone in Congress to bring legislation for his or her ideas, his or her priorities. And in this case, it is his priorities, right? That's across the board. And then the judicial branch ensures that those laws that we make at the legislative branch are carried out in the manner which they were intended, which is why it's an iterative process. We are working, I'm just saying, checks and balance. So the imbalance of power, because you have an executive branch that is saying that they are the boss of the legislative branch, the entire United States has to deal with those consequences. The unfortunate thing is that we are also dealing with an executive branch that believes that there should not be any more elections, right? And I told you guys, I was a cryptologist, so I was in the intelligence field, and a lot of what we learn and talk about is how operations affect the ability of a country to do whatever, right? So there are a lot of countries that, or areas, well, I'll say AORs, area of responsibilities that I've been in, that have elections but do not have elections. Russia, for example, they have elections, but it does not matter because the president has decided there that we will make it look like it's the illusion of choice, but I will always win. And I don't want to be like any country that is like that. And you can also, because I don't have a lot of time here too, because I've got, I'm still in legislative session, but take a look at those countries that have the illusion of choice. And so these United States, every state has to choose how they participate. Do they participate and exercise their power? Because by the 10th Amendment, states have the powers to draw their maps, to determine what businesses can do, states have a lot of power, right? And I understand why this is such a difficult topic to sort of walk towards, because guess what, y'all? The last time we were talking about what a state's rights to do, we had a civil war, and that was over the enslavement of other human beings, right? That fight was that. So to say the word state's powers, like our state's power can trigger this, like, oh my God, are we walking back down this thing? And the reality of it is that if states don't exercise their power to make sure that the United States continues to have elections, true elections, that we do not turn into that we do not submit to authoritarian style leadership. And these are, like, I need folks who don't understand to look this up by definition and also look at the historical context. I feel like one night I just want to do a history lesson on how play by play you can see where this the executive branch is leading these United States to. They would much rather have the United Countries of America and then rule the countries. And that is not what I think most Americans want. Some of them do, and to each his own, but not me, right? I'll get to that question. So here's what we decided. Virginia was like, yo, we want to do something about it. Like, we are not about to sit back here and just like watch this happen, because I know, again, if you were here in the beginning, I'm the person who was like, look, I didn't do no party politics for this. But once I did join a party, what I always heard is like, Dems are soft. They don't never fight back. They just let them do. There was an appetite for like, when will y'all meet fire with fire? Because you're getting burnt up. We getting burnt up because y'all not, and that probably is true for the other side too. But in this very situation, in order for there to be a system by which we all get to have our ideals, I've been all over the world where we get to retain the beauty of these United States, a multicultural, multi-opinionated, multi-faith, right? Because as we would have it, the radical Christianity is heavily rooted in what we see happening too here, right? In order to do that, we as a state have to exercise our power, and we are doing that. And so on April 21st, Virginians will vote in a statewide. So if you're in Virginia, in a statewide referendum related to redistricting, which is what I explained before. The question is going to be as to whether or not Virginia, whether or not we should temporarily allow the General Assembly, the legislative branch, right, to redraw congressional districts before the 2026 election and then return to the independent redistricting system after the next census cycle. Because I say again, what we have nationally is an executive branch who is believing that there should be no checks and balance, that they should be the sole check and balance, and telling states to counterbalance to make sure that they retain the control of the legislative branch, period, point blank. We get to choose that, right? And what Virginia is saying is like, not today. We're not doing that. We like this constitutional democratic republic. We want to make sure that it stays there for better or for worse. So we will ask our voters, because we still believe in that the democratic part of a constitutional democratic republic, that democratic part, that the voters need to tell us that they are okay with us doing this. Do you all want to maintain democracy? That really is a choice here, right? Early voting started on March 6th. That was Friday, which was my birthday. Early voting started on March 6th. So the decision process is already underway. So here's what I need you to understand. A yes vote means that Virginia would temporarily redraw the congressional districts before 2026 election in response to the national redistricting fight that is happening right now, in response to maintaining democracy. And that's really what it is. So supporters are going to say yes, and that vote will help make sure that we are level the playing field. At least Virginia is doing their part in leveling the playing field to ensure that elections are decided by voters rather than by partisan advantages in other states. Let me again underscore how North Carolina did what the president asked him to do, found 3 seats, and now the balance of power in Congress is off because they found those seats. And in simple terms, a yes vote allows Virginia to respond to what is happening elsewhere, because we are the United States of America. Unless we want to be the United Countries of America, we are the United States of America. Now, what does a no vote mean? A no vote means that we keep the current maps exactly the way they are until next cycle. No mid-cycle changes. And even if other states redraw their maps, we just gonna sit back and watch democracy erode, for real, like for real. So the choice that if you're in Virginia as a voter, you face is whether or not Virginia should respond to changes happening nationally or stay until the next census. It really is an existential crisis. Like, it really is whether or not we believe, like, truly, and many people don't, you never hear me sort of having these conversations like this, but this truly is a choice as to whether we remain the United States of America, where there is people power. Right? Even with the House, doesn't matter where you sit on the political spectrum, you get to sit somewhere on the political spectrum. If we don't do something, which again, I get the flack because I said we all joined a cult. Like when all the electeds, I tell them, all of us joined a cult. So whether or not you believe that we should have a system by which people can have a myriad of political affiliations and opinions, a myriad of religious affiliations, or none of those, where you can choose to not have any of those. That is what we are going to be a part of. That is what we're asking you whether or not we sit on the sidelines about. All right. So I also want to address these mailers. I know that they've been in the news. Some of you have seen them in your inbox in Hampton Roads and other parts of Virginia. There have been some political mailers circulating that use civil rights imagery and references Jim Crow to oppose the referendum. There have been a lot of civil rights organizations and public officials who've already spoken out about the materials because they misuse history and can confuse voters. And I feel like the only way to address this is address it directly, because the strategy behind those mailers is not even complicated. they are making assumption about voters, right? They assume that voters, particularly Black voters, are emotional rather than informational voters. Do you hear me? The assumption is that voters, particularly Black American voters, don't get information before they vote. They vote off their feelings and off propaganda, and they assume that if they wave the word Jim Crow or civil rights in front of us, that we will react before we actually read or find out what the hell is going on. I have a different view of our community. I believe that Black voters in America have historically been some of the most informed voters in this country because we had to be. Our ancestors did not secure the right to vote through guesswork. They studied the law. They organized community. They learned the systems, learned how these systems work. So they demanded a level of fairness. And when I see a mailer that tries to tell people what to think without explaining the policy clearly, I encourage people to do one simple thing. All of you, read the ballot question, understand exactly what it says, ask the questions, look at the facts, make your decision. Ultimately, you are the one who's going to decide yes or no. And because we live in this constitutional democratic republic, whatever you choose is right. I would like you to retain the right to do that, which is why I'm asking you to vote no. But the decision should come from information and not manipulation. And that is what this mailer is doing. And they're using a Black man to do it. And it is so unfortunate to watch this and see folks be used in that way. But they get to make our decisions just like we're saying that you get to make your decisions. I am going to address the question about ICE and Hampton Roads, but I need to get through this, okay? So, again, you're probably going to hear in the news, Democrats are being divisive. Why can't we just leave things alone? Why are we even responding at all? And those are really fair questions. Because we live in a constitutional democratic republic, you can ask those questions publicly without being imprisoned. You can question what it is we're doing, and we want you to continue to be able to question those things, which is why history has showed us that when political power is shifting across multiple states, sometimes responding becomes a part of protecting that representation, part of protecting your right to question, part of the ability of you to worship and praise however you want to. Sometimes cooperation is the thing that works. Sometimes patience is the thing that works. And sometimes fire has to be met with fire. And this is one of those moments where the voters have to decide what fairness looks like in the middle of a national redistricting fight. We are in it. So at the end of the day, the referendum is not just about map lines, right? It's not simply about drawing these map lines. It truly is indicative or represents. It's about who gets represented in Congress, how the balance, how power is balanced nationally, and whether voters feel that elections can be decided fairly. Virginia voters now have the opportunity to make that decision, and we want you to continue to be able to make those decisions, which is why I'm saying you need to vote yes. My job here is not to tell you what to think. My job is to make sure that you understand the assignment. And early voting has already started. Election day is April 21st. Whatever you decide, you need to freaking show up, because democracy only works when people participate. Okay? Period. It only works. And that's it. That's it. That is the best that I can give you in this moment to help you understand why you got to show up, why this is necessary. Okay? All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to address, I have one question in the comments, and then I'm going to make sure I go back and let you guys know about the town hall, and then we're going to go from there. So C Snort 82,000 says, what is being done to improve what is being done to improve primary voting since the retro gerrymandering act, and how are the polls being protected from manipulation like ICE presence to keep voting safe? ICE is here in HR in Hampton Roads now. Yeah. There are several things that are happening, several laws, and I'll have to go make sure that I look up and see what has passed and what has not, specifically about voter intimidation at the polls. There were a couple laws that, maybe one I think that was passed about that. We are hyper aware that ICE is in Hampton Roads right now, hyper aware. I have been talking to Hispanic and Latino business owners, talking to families. It is affecting our school attendance. It's affecting our economy so much. And actually, we've had folks in Hampton Roads lose their life because of the recklessness of ICE, right? Like here in Hampton Roads. So hyper aware. I will get that bill number and try to get that out to you. If you could, like, my office is deljglass@house.virginia.gov. I'll say that again, deljglass@house.virginia.gov, so that I can at least give you the bill number that talks about keeping people safe while they're voting, period. We don't want any voter intimidation, period. But we also recognize that if we don't do something, we will have an executive branch that will choose who gets to vote and when they get to vote, how they get to vote, and who watches them vote. That's why you need to vote yes, period. Before I close up, I do want to do a little reminder. Show up in those J's. I got J's on today. Yes, I do. J's on my feet, so you like me, right? Show up in them J's if that's what you got to do. I want to remind you before I wrap up here that we are having the Water and Power Town Hall next Tuesday, March 17th at 6 p.m. It's going to be live on all my platforms. We're going to be talking about the rising power bills and what's driving the cost and like what you all can do about it. There will be representatives from Dominion Energy and as well as if I could just get it off my tongue, as well as Hampton Roads Sanitation District, HRSD, that does the water. I just want to remind you that, water is a locally regulated thing, or managed, and energy is regulated at the state level. So there's some push and pull there, just trying to make sure that I've got it across the board, but doing what I can with what I have. Because if there's something affecting the daily lives of our people in the community, then we need to figure out, we need to talk about it, find out what the heck's going on, and try to do something about that. And I do hope to see you all there next Tuesday. I hope that you stay informed. I hope that you stay engaged. I hope that you vote yes. I hope you keep doing the work because, the work is village work, and village is a verb. It is an action. It is a thing that we choose to do every day. And I know that certified doers understand exactly what that means. All right. Let me make sure I don't have any other comments or anything. I didn't miss anything. Thank you so much. Are there any other questions, comments, concerns, anything that you want? All right. So with that, I have 3 more days of session. We have today, we have tomorrow, and yes, we work on Saturday. Saturday is our last day of session, and the work will maybe be done with the work. We have a budget that we're doing, and that's always tough work. So may have to be coming back. We're not sure what's happening with that, but I will know something by Saturday. I know by Saturday what exactly is happening and where bills stand. Thank you, David James. I know he said, sorry, my DIY. Yeah, I'm going to work really hard on that bill, the right to repair, getting you to be able to repair your own stuff. So I do my best. I do my best there. But until then, y'all be kind to yourself. Drink water, you're a flower, right? You're living things. You wouldn't purposely kill a plant, would you? Not on purpose, so don't do it to yourself. Don't do it to yourself. Don't do it to yourself. Yep. Oh, I love this. Kay Willie always saying join a commission. We are in an opportunity where the state boards, commissions, and authorities, there are also some local things where if you got some expertise, join a commission. If you go to the Secretary of the Commonwealth commission page, there's a laundry list of commissions that you can join, as well as local level has some as well. Oh, I love free Caraway. Thank you so much. I appreciate your support and want to echo that. Oh, BZ, so good to see you this morning. I hope to see you after session two. Genuinely, because it's been an interesting ride here. I'll be happy to just to manage expectations. I'm excited to get back home. I will probably take maybe like a week or so off. It's been nonstop. I think you might be able to hear it. I can hear my voice dragging. It's been nonstop since January, long days and nights. Which is why a lot of days you guys I've not been able to do the morning due because I've had committee meetings that started at 7:30 or 7:15 where we had to meet at 7 and to have the meeting. It's been work, but this is what I signed up for. This is what I was asked to do, and I'm going to try to do my damnedest to do my best job. My biggest flex is that I have you all to give me information, to hold me accountable, to tell me what's going on. So I really, really, really appreciate. I really do appreciate you all and the time that you take to spend here these mornings. Beautiful thing. Glad that you got a chance. David James says, chatted with Kim Sutter. Yeah, she is the chair of the Planning Commission, which is really cool to know that they're great humans doing the best that they can do across the city. And great humans, by that I mean you all too. All right. Till next time. See you when I see you. I'm Jackie Glass, Mama, Navy vet, certified doer in the Laced Up Legislative for the House of Delegates, 93rd District. Honored to serve. Honored to be a part of this thing that we call this thing that we call America, this thing that we call Virginia, and this thing that we call home. All right. Thank you all. Be kind to yourself. See you next time.